מסכת בבא בתרא, דף פא נו משנה, הקונה שני אילנות בתוך שדה חברו, הרי זה לא קנה קרקע. If someone buys 2 trees in someone else's field, then they do not acquire the ground. If they acquire 3 trees, then that already is considered a whole group, an orchard, and then they own all 3 trees and the ground as well. But 2 trees, no, you own the trees, and you can go and get the fruit of them, but you don't own any part of the ground. Rabbi Meir Omer kana karka. Rabbi Meir says, no, even 2 trees, that's already a group, and it's considered an entity, and you acquire the ground as well. But Rabbi Meir would say, if I buy only 1 tree, then I only acquire the tree and not the ground. Therefore, according to Tanakama, in the case of 2 trees where I do not own the ground, this would be Rabbi Meir would agree with the following law if it was just 1 tree. So if I do have the ground, then the following halachot apply. Higdilu lo yeshapeh. This is an interesting law. If these 2 trees, if they grow and they're causing a lot of shade on the ground of the owner of the ground, and the owner of the ground, he wants to grow things there, and the shade from the tree is bothering him, he is not allowed to cut the branches of the tree. The reason is because when the owner of everything sold the tree, so he knew that there's a tree here, it's going to grow branches, going to grow leaves, and it's going to cause shade, and that means he's willing to give up the right to have sunlight in that area as well. It's implied in selling the tree is that the tree is going to block some light from his land, and therefore he is not allowed to cut it. והעולה מן הגזע שלו מן השורשים של בעל הקרקע וימתו אין לו קרקע. Anything that grows from the trunk of the tree belongs to the owner of the tree. That's all part of the tree. But if it grows from the roots of the tree, then the owner of the land gets it, because already the roots are now in the ground and now it's just growing out of the ground. And so the owner of the ground gets it, even though it is in fact connected to the tree through the roots, but already went in the ground, so the owner of the ground owns that part. If the trees die, then the guy who bought the trees does not own any part of the land. He cannot go and replant trees there. That's it. He can't put anything else there either. So that's it. His right is finished. קנה שלושה, קנה קרקע, הגדילו ישפה, ועולה מן הגזע מן השורשים שלו, ומתו יש לו קרקע. If someone buys 3 trees, that's already considered its own group, it's an orchard, and he gets not only the trees, but also the land under it, even according to Tanakama would agree, and certainly would agree with this. But now, these laws are different. Higdilu yeshapeh, if it grows and causes shade, not right underneath, we're talking about. If it causes shade right underneath where he owns the ground, then obviously the owner of the rest of the ground cannot come and cut down that part of the tree. I own trees. I bought three from you. I own the ground underneath, and so I have a right to cause shade on my own ground. We're not talking about that. We're talking about if the trees grow and they cause shade outside of the area under the trees in the seller's area. So then the seller can come and cut down the trees, because now he says, listen, I sold you the trees with the land, that's your land, so you can make shade on your own land. But I did not have in mind when I sold it that you can also have a right to put shade on my part of the land, and therefore, interestingly, because he sells land, therefore he does not sell any right to cover any part of his own field with shade, so he can cut them down. Now, in this case, anything that grows not only from the root, but also not only from the trunk, but also from the root, belongs to the owner of the tree, because he owns not only the whole tree, but also the ground and the roots that are under it. And in this case, if the trees die, the owner owns the land under it. He continues to own it, and he can plant new trees there if he wants. Tenanatam. And now we have another Mishnah that's similar to our Mishnah. Hakone shene ilanot betoch shel chavero mebi ve'eno kore. Rabbi Meir omer mebi ve'kore. But this Mishnah is in Masechet Bikurim, and it says if someone buys 2 trees in his friend's field, so we saw above that according to Tanakama there, and Tanakama here, as it says the same thing, you only own the trees but not the land. Here, in this Mishnah, it's an application to Bikurim. Normally, when a Jewish farmer owns land in Israel and it produces fruit, he has to take some of it and the first fruits and bring it in a basket to Yerushalayim, as the pasuk says, "V'lakachta merishit kol pri adama asher tabi me'arsecha asher Adonai Elohecha noten lach." We're going to analyze these words: the land that Hashem gives you, from your land that Hashem gives you, and then you go and you say the famous words that we say in the Pesach Haggadah, "Arami Obed Avi." So that's the normal procedure. The thing is here, Tanakama says this person who only owns 2 trees, he does have to bring bikurim, but he does not recite that paragraph recitation when he gives it to the Kohen. Why does he bring it? Well, these are first fruits that he has that are growing on trees in the land of Israel. However, he cannot say the Mikra Bikurim because he does not own the land. He only owns the trees. And so how can he say, right, thank you for giving me this fruit from the land that you have given me, when he does not own the land? And therefore, he cannot recite. Rabbi Meir disagrees and says he brings bikurim and he does say mikra bikurim, because according to Rabbi Meir, if you buy 2 trees, then you own the land also. It comes together with the land. So this is very consistent. Now we understand. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shemuel Mechayev Haya Rabbi Meir Af Belokech Perot Min Hashuk. Now Shemuel has a chidush. He's bothered. How come Rabbi Meir has to say this law twice? We basically already know it from this Mishnah that if you acquire 2 trees, you acquire the land as well. So why do you have to tell me in the other one that you have to say Mikra Bikurim? Obviously, if you own the land, then you have to say the paragraph that the farmer normally says. And so Shemuel says, to answer that question, which we're going to say in a second, he has a chidush. Rabbi Meir actually is teaching us a new law here, that not only if you own the land and you grew the first fruits, then you obviously have to bring them and say the paragraph, but even if you didn't grow them, but you buy them from the marketplace. I didn't grow them, but I bought them from the marketplace, I paid for them, and these are first fruits, then I, the buyer, I have to bring them, and I have to say, Mikra Bikurim, thank you Hashem for this fruit that you have given me from the land. Now the Gemara clarifies, Mimai, Midigatani Mishnah Yetera, Mikadi, Tana le deyesh lo karka, Peshita de mebi vekore. How does Shemuel know this? Because we have an extra Mishnah. Since I already know that the Tana already told me in our Mishnah here in Batra, that when you buy 2 trees, you own the land, then it's obvious that you'd bring bikurim, and also you'd have to say the recitation of the mikra bikurim. So why does he also have to say something in the Mishnah bikurim? It must be to teach us that Rabbi Meir would obligate even a buyer of first fruits. He didn't grow them, but he bought them in the marketplace. He also has to bring them, and he can also say the paragraph, thank you Hashem for this fruit. Now we ask a challenge against Shemuel. But doesn't pasuk say that you bring from your land? That means only the farmer that owns the land has to bring it, and not someone who bought it from the marketplace. So how could the buyer come and say it? And the answer is no. This pasuk is only coming to exclude if it grows outside the land of Israel. Me'arsecha means your land, the land of Israel, your collective land, the land of the Jewish nation. But that's not necessarily your personal land, even if you don't own it, but you bought the fruit, you still have to, even if you don't own the land, but you bought the fruit, you still have to come and bring that bikurim. Hold on. Another pasuk says, your land. So it's not only me'arsecha in Devarim, another pasuk in Shemot, admatecha. So doesn't that mean only the farmer who owns the land brings the bikurim? Leme'ute admat goy. Now that comes to exclude land owned by a non-Jew in the land of Israel. So either if it's outside the land of Israel, or even in the land of Israel but owned by a non-Jew, then nobody has to bring bikurim, even the guy who buys it from the non-Jew. But if it's in Israel and owned by a Jew, and then a Jew buys it, that Jew who buys it has to bring the bikurim. והכתיב אשר נתת לי, תאהבת לי זוזה וזבני בהו. Hold on, back in Devarim it says, thank you Hashem for the land that you have given me. Doesn't that mean that only the farmer who actually owns the land, that Hashem gave him, can say it, but not someone else who does not own the land and only owns the fruit? And the answer is he can still say it because you have given me the money and I bought this fruit with that money. So even though I don't own the land, but I bought the rights to this fruit, which with money that was mine, and so even though I don't own the land, I could still bring them. And so Shemuel's able to answer all of those challenges. Now we have another challenge against Shemuel's chidush about Rabbi Meir. Matib Rabbah, hakone ilan echad betoch shel chavero, mebi ve'eno kore, lefi shelo kana karka, dibre Rabbi Meir. This Baraita says, if someone buys one tree in someone else's field, then he has to bring bikurim, but he does not recite because he does not own the land. This is the opinion of Rabbi Meir. What we see here is that even according to Rabbi Meir, someone who owns the tree does not recite Mikra Bikurim. In this case, he does have to bring it, but he does not recite Mikra Bikurim because he doesn't own the land. Well, if even this guy who owns the tree does not say the recitation because he doesn't own the land, then for sure, someone who just buys the fruit in the marketplace who doesn't own the land and doesn't own the tree for sure would not have to say the recitation of Bikurim. So this is a final challenge against Shemuel, and his opinion is refuted. Amar lo Rabbi Shimon ben Eliakim le Rabbi Elazar. Now a new question that's about the Mishnah itself. My ta'amad Rabbi Meir be'ilan echad, umay ta'amad Rabbanan b'shnei ilanot. Basic question: what is the explanation for Rabbi Meir that when there's one tree, you bring bikurim, but you don't say the recitation? And for that matter, it's the same question against Rabbanan. When you buy two trees and you own the trees but not the land, why do you bring bikurim but not recite, but not make the recitation? Just pick a lane. If you have to bring bikurim, then bring bikurim and say the recitation. And if you don't have to, then don't bring bikurim at all. What's this half measure of bring it but don't recite? What, do you have to or not? אמר לו, דבר שהראשונים לא אמרו בו טעם, תשאלני, כדי לביישני. And so Rabbi Elazar answers Rabbi Shimon ben Eliakim, why are you asking me this very difficult question? Something that even the earlier generations, they never explained this. So now you're asking me this question in the Bet Midrash in public. What, you're just trying to embarrass me? If you really want to ask me in private, but you should generally only ask something in public to a speaker, something that they are likely to know, something that there's a tradition about, but you're not sure what it is, but your teacher will know. Fine, then ask a question like that. You're asking me a question that no one ever expressed an opinion about before, so what, are you just trying to embarrass me? So he didn't have an answer. Amar Rabba, my kushya, dilma Rabbi Meir be'ilan echad sapuke mesapeka leh, v'Rabbanan b'shnei ilanot sapuka mesapeka lehu. Rabba says, why is this such a difficulty that everybody's all up in arms about? Maybe, according to Rabbi Meir, if I buy one tree, then it's a safek. If I buy two trees, then for sure I have to own the land. If it's one tree, I definitely own the tree. Maybe I own the land, maybe I don't. And for Rabbanan, he applies that doubt when there's two trees. He's not sure. Listen, if you buy one tree, then there's nothing. If it's three trees, you own the land. Two trees, have a safek. Because I have a doubt, therefore, you have to bring it, because maybe you do have to. But don't say the recitation. It's like a beracha lebatala. And therefore, don't say the recitation. So this explains why you're doing this half measure, because we're in doubt whether you really own the land or not. Then we ask, hold on, is there any doubt here in that Baraita that we just quoted, in the name of Rabbi Meir, the one that we used to refute Shemuel? It says he does not recite because he did not buy the land. He does not own the land. So it says very clearly he does not own the land. It doesn't say because it's safek. So we answer, you know what, you have to add a word to the Baraita. It's not that he doesn't recite because he does not own the land, but rather he brings but does not recite because maybe he doesn't own the land. This is the case where he bought one tree, and according to Rabbi Meir, we're not sure, does he own the land or not? Since it's a safek, Therefore, he has to bring bikurim, but does not recite. And so this is an answer that we can accept Rabbah's explanation that also in the Mishnah, in the case when someone buys 2 trees, according to Rabbanan, we are not sure if he owns the land underneath, and therefore he does bring bikurim, but because we're not sure, he does not say the recitation. Now we next ask, hold on, if that's true, that we're in doubt, then we should worry that maybe these fruits are actually not first fruits. And now you're taking just regular cholin, regular fruit, putting a basket and bringing it up to the azara, you bring it to the temple courtyard. And there's a general rule for sure by animals, that's the oraita. You cannot bring cholin, regular animals, non-consecrated, onto the azara. And this applies also to fruits. It could be the oraita, it could be the rabbanan. But either way, if it is bikurim, good, you have to bring it. But if it's not bikurim, and just out of doubt you're bringing it, well, you can't, because you're not allowed to bring non-sacred items onto the azara. And the answer is demakdish lehu. So the owner will also consecrate it. He'll say, this fruit is kadosh, kedushat tamim. I'm donating it to the Bet HaMikdash. And then you can bring it. You can bring anything to the Bet HaMikdash if you consecrate it. Hold on, but the Kohanim are supposed to eat the bikurim. They eat them like teruma, where they have to be tahor, and they're supposed to eat them. But if you consecrate them now to the Bet HaMikdash, so now they're owned by the Bet HaMikdash itself, by their property Bet HaMikdash, and the Kohanim cannot eat it. So how are the Kohanim going to eat it now? De parik lehu, and the answer is that the Kohen will redeem it for money. And that way, it did have Kiddushat Tamim, just monetary consecration. Once you move that holiness to money, then he can eat it. And then if it was Bikurim all along, no problem. The guy gave him Bikurim, he eats the Bikurim. And if it was not Bikurim, he brought it as consecrated property, so you're allowed to bring it to Azara, and he then redeemed it, and now he can eat it as regular food. Hold on, another problem. The law is that regular food a farmer grows, he has to give teruma and maaser. Teruma goes to the Kohen. Maaser Rishon goes to the Levi. Maaser Ani in some years goes to Ani. Maaser Sheni he eats himself. So if it is not bikurim, then he has to separate teruma and maaser. Now if it is bikurim, you don't have to separate teruma and maaser from bikurim, because you're already giving it to the Kohen. It belongs to the Kohen, that's it. But if that's okay. But if it's not bikurim and you're giving it to the Kohen, but you didn't separate teruma and maaser, so the answer is the mafrish lahu. He did separate. He separated teruma, right? This little piece over here, that's teruma, and then again you give it all to the Kohen anyway. But you did separate it, and if it's not bikurim, so you separated it and you give it to the Kohen. If it is bikurim, so the separating was for no reason, and you give it to the Kohen, whole thing to the Kohen anyway. Bishlama teruma gedolah yehibla lekohen. Now that answer makes sense for teruma gedolah because it all goes to the Kohen no matter what. So whether it's bikurim and gave it to the Kohen, or I just did a separation and then gave it to the Kohen and it was chulin, so he still gets his teruma. Maaser sheni name yehible lekohen. Maaser sheni also I can give to the Kohen. Maaser sheni, really, the owner can keep it, but he has to eat it in Yerushalayim. But in Yerushalayim, he can share with everyone. He's supposed to share it with the people there, the poor people, Levim, everybody there. And so he doesn't have to eat it himself. If he wants to share the whole thing, he can. So he's bringing it to Yerushalayim, and he's giving it to the Kohen. So the Kohen's eating it in Yerushalayim. So fine, there's no violation of Maaser Sheni. Maaser Ani Nameh Hible Lechoen Ani. Now, on the years when you have to bring Maaser Ani, you have to give it to a poor person. Fine, find a poor Kohen, and that way, if it's Bikurim, you give it to a Kohen. If it's Maaser Ani, so then he is poor also. There's no problem there. Ela Maaser Rishon de Levi hu lemanya hible, but Maaser Rishon that goes to a Levi. So who's he going to give it to? If he gives it to a Levi, it's a problem because maybe it's Bikurim has to go to a Kohen. If he goes to the whole thing, if he gives the whole thing to a Kohen, then what about the Maaser Rishon? It's supposed to go to a Levi. So he's in Safek, but so he can't just give the whole thing to a Kohen. What could he do? And the answer is the Yehivle the Kohen, Kedribi Elazar ben Azariah, the Tanya. Teruma Gedolah the Kohen, Maser Rishon Levi, Dibre Bi Akiba. Dibre Akiba. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah Omer, Maser Rishon Af le Kohen. Oh, in fact, he could give Maser Rishon also to a Kohen, because we could follow the opinion of Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah in the following Mishnah that says Teruma Gedolah has to go to a Kohen, Maser Rishon has to go to a Levi, according to Rabbi Akiva. However, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah says Maser Rishon you can also give to a Kohen. It's true, Maser Rishon goes to Leviim, right? But aren't Kohanim within the family of Leviim? The Kohanim are a subset of Leviim, and therefore you can give Maser to a Rishon to a Kohen, and therefore there's no problem. You give the whole thing to the Kohen. If it's Bikurim, good, you gave it to the Kohen. And if it's not, okay, so you separate. You designate this piece is teruma. This tenth is Maser Rishon. This tenth is Maser Sheni. No problem. Or in some years Maser Ani. Okay, give the whole thing to a Kohen. You separated it out, and you gave all the parts to the Kohen, so you're good either way. Hold on, but maybe if it is bikurim, maybe you're required to say the recitation, and so you're giving it to the Kohen, but you're not saying the recitation. But the Torah says ve'anita ve'amarta, you have to say this paragraph, and you didn't say it. And so we answer, no, the recitation is not necessary to fulfill the mitzvah. You're supposed to say it, but if you didn't say it, you still did the mitzvah. It's true for Birkot HaMitzvah also. You're supposed to say a beracha on talit, but if you didn't, and you put on talit, you still fulfilled the mitzvah. You're supposed to say beracha on netilat yadayim. Let's say you forgot, you didn't say the beracha, you still fulfilled the mitzvah of netilat yadayim. The mitzvot, the berachot are good to do, but it's not that you didn't do the whole mitzvah. If not, and same thing here. Okay, so you did the bikurim, you didn't say the paragraph. That's still okay. Velo, v'hamar b'zera kol ha'ra'ui lebila en bila me'akebet bo, v'she'eno ra'ui lebila bila me'akebet bo. Now, is that true that the recitation is not necessary for the fulfillment of the commandment? We have the statement of Rabbi Zera that says in the context of Korban Mincha. Korban Mincha, you bring some flour and some oil, and it's supposed to be mixed together. Now, Rabbi Zera says, what if you didn't mix it together? Is it still valid? Did you still fulfill your obligation? For whatever reason, you had to bring that Korban Mincha. You took upon yourself such an obligation. So, is it fulfilled? Even if it was not mixed? Rabbi Zera says, as long as it could be mixed, it doesn't have to be mixed. But if it cannot be mixed, then that's a problem and it's not valid. He's talking about the amount of flour. If you put so much flour in it that you can't mix it, the bowl is going to overflow if you try to mix it. It's too much flour, then since it cannot be mixed, then it's no good. Now, if you put a less flour and a lesser amount than 60 isad is the maximum. If you put less and didn't mix it, well, you should mix it, lechatechila, but if you didn't mix it, that's okay, because you could have mixed it. But if you put more than 60, it's impossible to mix it. And so even though if it was possible to mix and you didn't mix it, that's okay, you fulfilled your obligation. But if it's impossible to mix, then that's a problem and you do not fulfill your obligation. And the same thing here, in a regular case where it's my own fruits. And if it's 100%, it's my land, it's my fruit and everything, and I'm supposed to say the recitation, Nechatechila. I forgot to say it, and I gave it to the Kohen, so that's okay. The Bikurim is valid, because I could have said it, therefore it's okay, even if I don't say it. But if I cannot say it, because I'm not sure if the land is mine, then if you follow this law to be Zera and apply it to Bikurim, then he does not fulfill his obligation of Bikurim. And the answer is Da'abelehu Kirbi Yoseh Bar Hanina Damar Besaran Veshigeran Biyad Shaliach Umet Shaliach Baderech Mebi Ve'eno Kore Mai Tama Dichtib V'lakachta Vehebeta. Oh, we're following the opinion of Rabbi Yoseh Bar Hanina, who said, if one person harvested the fruits, he owns it, and then he sent it with a shaliach, says, listen, I want you to take this to Yerushalayim, take this basket, and you be my agent. You go and give it to the Kohen and say the recitation on my behalf. That's okay, you can do that. The agent can do that. Here's the problem. If the agent takes it and dies on the way, Now the owner who sent him in the first place, he comes and he gets the basket and he has to bring it to the Kohen, but he cannot say the recitation. Why can he not say it? Because the pasuk says velakachta and juxtaposes it with vehebeta, and you bring it. And we learn from that that the person who brings it has to be for the same one who gives it to the Kohen. The one who travels with it is also the one who gives it to the Kohen, and we don't have that anymore. If the agent was alive and he's the one that traveled with it and gives it to the Kohen, that's good. But if the original owner did the whole thing, also fine. But now the agent brought it some of the way, and now the owner is doing the giving it. No, you can't have that, and so it's impossible to say the recitation. So we see the Yosef Bar Chanina says, even though you cannot say the recitation over here, it's impossible. Nevertheless, you bring the owner still does have to bring the bikurim. We don't say it's me'akev, that is necessary to fulfill the mitzvah. You can fulfill the mitzvah even if you don't, and even if you could not have said the recitation. Now we have a question on this whole line of reasoning. Ravacha, the son of Avia, asked Rav Ashi, what's the big deal? This is just Pesukim. There's not like a beracha lebatala where you're saying Hashem's name in vain. So let's say it's not. I don't own it, and I can't say it, or I'm not the one that brought it. The shaliach died, and now I'm bringing it. So let's say I'm in a situation where I can't, maybe I can say it, maybe I can't, or I can't say it. So what's the big deal? Say it anyway. I'm just reading Pesukim. Even though the Pesukim say Hashem's name in it, you're allowed to say Hashem's name when you're reciting a Pasuk. So if I need to say it, good, I said it. If I don't need to say it, okay, so I read some Pesukim. It's good, but Talmud Torah. What's wrong with that? What's the downside? Two answers. One is that it looks like I'm lying. If I don't own the land, and I come and say, here's the fruit from the land that Hashem has given me. Well, Hashem didn't give you the land, so then you're lying, because it's not the same as Talmud Torah. Talmud Torah, okay, you're sitting in the Bet Midrash, you're sitting at home, and you're reading the Pesukim, but understand them. That's fine. But here you're doing it in a performance of the mitzvah, as you're handing the basket to the Kohen, and you're saying, thank you for this fruit that Hashem you have given, for the land that you have given me. But it's not true, and you can't say something even that looks like it might be a lie. You're not allowed to say that, because you are saying it in the form of a prayer, in the form of an official act. Rav Meshanshia bered Rav Chia Amar, Dir ma'ateh la'afkoinhu metiruma u'ma'aser. Rav Meshanshia, the son of Rav Chia, says a different answer, because you may come to remove yourself from the obligation of tiruma and maaser, because you think that this fruit is for sure bikurim, because you're saying, look, I'm saying the recitation. See, if I'm saying the recitation, it must be. Oh, so that's bikurim. I don't have to take tiruma and maaser. We're afraid he's not going to remove my tiruma and maaser at all. Therefore, we tell such a person who's in a safek, don't say the recitation. What do you mean don't say the recitation? Well, there's a chance that does not bikurim. Oh, if there's a chance not bikurim, then I better separate tiruma and maaser. I'll separate it, and I'll give the whole thing to a Kohen. So in order to remind people that when they are in a case of doubt, they have to separate tiruma and maaser. Therefore, we don't allow them to recite it. But otherwise, it's no beracha lebatala. Otherwise, just saying Pesukim, and that would be okay. But rather, this is a reminder to take tiruma and maaser. Baruch Adonai leolam. Amen ve'amen.